Hey, what's up, everyone? Back for another album review. This time it's going to be Axis Bold as Love from the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Released December 1st, 1967. Their second studio album. Actually, their second album of 1967. This album was actually recorded to fulfill a contract obligation that said that they would record and release two studio albums in 1967, which is totally insane. I can't imagine a band signing anything like that today, but it was a common thing in the 60s for bands to release multiple albums in the same year. It wasn't released in the US until 1968, January, I believe, because Are You Experienced, their debut, was still on the charts, and they didn't want to interfere with that album's success, which was having a lot of success. Like I said, it was recorded to fulfill a contract obligation, and somehow, in my opinion, they ended up making it their best album. And in my opinion, Are You Experience is a great album, obviously. Electric Ladyland is a great album, obviously, though it feels a little bloated in places. But I think this is their best album. It reached number 5 in the UK and number 3 in the US. So, top 5 album. Both sides of the Atlantic, kind of a rushed album, but it worked out for him. There's a famous incident where Jimi Hendrix left the master tapes for side 1 of this album in a taxi in London, never to be seen again, and they had to remix all of side 1 in one night. Him and Shas Chandler, who discovered Jimi Hendrix, who was also the bass player for the Animals, and them and another guy, and it sounds great. I just wonder what happened to those master tapes. They got lost. Like, could someone have them? Did someone sell them? I don't know. Who knows what happened to them? But it's interesting. So, yeah, let's get to these songs. The first song is called EXP. It's a semi-instrumental spoken word kind of track. It features microphonic and harmonic feedback, plus a panning effect, which was kind of experimental at the time, where if you're listening in like headphones or a big stereo system with like speakers separated, you'll hear stuff go from one speaker to the other speaker and back and forth. It's kind of cool. It was revolutionary at the time, and it's basically a guy talking about aliens and stuff, and it was a precursor kind of to all the stuff Jimi Hendrix would end up writing about as far as his interest in science fiction, space, and all that. He would do a lot of that. So it's kind of an intro to the album. Number 2 is Up from the Skies. It's about the experience of extraterrestrials coming down to Earth and being upset about how humans have treated the planet, which is understandable. And it was bad in the 60s. Imagine what they would think nowadays. And it was actually released as a single, which is really strange because to me it doesn't sound like the most commercially viable song on the album. I don't know, maybe Little Wing would have been a better choice, or Castles Made of Sand, something like that. But yeah, it reached number 82, not very high, but I mean, his singles never went very high. Like, few people know that, like, Jimi Hendrix was kind of a one-hit wonder as far as singles go. Yeah, he's legendary, but as far as like a top 40, top 20 single goes, All Along the Watchtower was pretty much it. And that wasn't even his song, so it's a shame, but Up from the Skies is a really good song either way, but just doesn't sound the kind of thing you'd normally release as a single. I don't know who was behind that decision, but whatever. Number 3, Spanish Castle Magic, is definitely one of my favorite songs by Jimi Hendrix Experience. He's writing about a club called the Spanish Castle that he frequented when he was young. When he was a teenager in high school, he would go to this club and listen to rock bands. He ended up playing there a lot after he started getting some fame, but before he was a god, he used to play this place. And it was Um, One of the few songs on this album that he actually played live with any frequency. It's like this and Little Wing. It's about the only ones he really played live very much. This is a shame because there's a lot of good songs on this album, and I don't know, whatever. But Spanish Castle Magic it's a badass song. One of his best, if you ask me. You're not asking me, but I'm telling you, it's one of his best songs. Number 4, Wait Until Tomorrow. It's about a man talking to his lover about leaving home together. Him and his lover, but her father kills him. It's a strange song, and it's actually one of the last songs recorded for the album. And if you go listen to this album on Spotify, for some reason it skips over this song. It doesn't play this song. It's the only one on the album it doesn't play. I don't know if there's some kind of copyright thing with it, but I think it's one of the better songs on the album. I like the harmony vocals, and it's just really good. Mitch Mitchell's drumming, his drumming, and Noel Redding's bass playing really stand out in this album, and they've always been a little underrated because, you know, they're in a band with Jimi Hendrix, so it happens, but it's a really good song. Number 5, Ain't No Telling. It's one of my least favorite songs on this album. It sounds like kind of a throwaway song to me. It's also the shortest on the album, fortunately. It's very unimpressive to me. Seems kind of filler. Seems to me about leaving a lover or someone for a bit and not knowing if he'll come back or not. I don't know. The song doesn't do anything for me, really. On an album full of amazing songs, this one just doesn't seem to fit for me. I don't know, some of you may like it. I don't know, let me know. Little Wing, number 6. One of his more famous songs. The other song on this album that he played a lot live. It references an idealized feminine angel-like figure, which he would come back to in later songs. And he started writing the song early in his career, and after he played the Monterey Pop Festival, that experience, pun intended, kind of motivated him to finish the song. And it's a really good song. It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful song. I always thought it could have used another verse, but I mean it's pretty short. But yeah, and the small amount of time you hear it, it's worth it. It's so good. He played through a Leslie speaker for the solo for the first time, which was normally used for organs and such at the time. But it sounds really good. And there's a glockenspiel somewhere in this song, and I don't know who plays it. Maybe Hendrix plays it himself, but that's pretty cool. A band like Jimi Hendrix experience using an instrument like the glockenspiel. But it's a classic song. I know Stevie Ray Vaughan has covered it, and multiple other people. It's probably the most famous song on this album. Alright, number 7, If 6 Was 9. It was featured on the soundtrack for Easy Rider, a movie released in 1969, with Peter Fonda, Jack Nicholson, and the other guy that looked like David Crosby in the movie. I can never think of the guy's freaking name. You know, the villain from Speed and all that stuff. He's a great actor. I don't know why I can't think of his name. But it's another song that includes panning and the guitar solo where it goes back and forth the speaker. He described it as an individualist anthem. It's about the conflict between white-collar conservatives, which he says in the song, and the hippie counterculture of the 60s, which were clashing a lot at the time. And it's the longest song on the album, and it's a really good song. It's slow, and it's slow, but it's heavy, if you can understand that. And really a precursor to, like, stuff that would be sort of considered heavy metal, like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. That would come along a couple years later, and it's really a really good song. When I was a kid, I used to listen to that soundtrack a lot, and this was always a highlight for me. And it still is when I listen to this song. It's so good. Number 8, You Got Me Floatin'. I guess it's about marijuana. He mentions got me floating naturally, and it seems like he's thinking about getting high. And I think the song's about pot. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Jimi Hendrix did some drugs. So yeah, it's one of the best songs on the album, if you ask me. But there's not a lot about it. It sounds like it's about drugs. You tell me, but it's a great song. Number 9, Castles Made of Sand. It's written about Hendrix's childhood, his different homes, different schools, different careers, a mother who was there one minute and gone the next. That's really what it's about. His brother gave some insight into that about what he thought he was referencing to in the song. You can always look that up online. It's really interesting. It has backwards guitar in the beginning and the end and the guitar solo, and it's really cool. This is such a great song. I love this song. This is another one of my favorite Hendrix songs. One of the best songs he's ever done, in my opinion. It's perfect, in my opinion. And there's not a lot of songs I think are perfect, but this is one of them. So check that one out. Number 10, She's So Fine. It's a Noel Redding, written by Noel Redding and sung by Noel Redding, the bass player for The Experience. And it's the first recorded song that they did that wasn't written by Jimi Hendrix. Well, they did a Hey Joe as a cover. It's the first song they recorded that was written by Noel Redding and sung by Noel Redding. Lots of like odd psychedelic imagery, rocking with bell clock around her neck, and something about her having branches that attack him from her neck. And it's a really weird song. It kind of reminds me of Cream for some reason. I don't know. It's a really good song though. The solo is really cool. It's cool hearing Jimi Hendrix sing background vocals too. It's interesting. It's a good song. I like it a lot. Number 11, One Rainy Wish. One Rainy Wish. It's written about a dream Hendrix had in which, this is quotes, the sky was filled with 1,000 stars and 11 moons played across the rainbows. Yeah, he was definitely doing some drugs. It was released as a B-side, the B-side to Up From the Skies. And it's another beautiful song. The lyrics are amazing. And when you read the description of the dream he had, you can picture what he's talking about when you listen to the song, listen to the lyrics. It's a really, really good song. This album's full of them. But the next one is not one of them, to me. Number 12, Little Miss Lover. It's just a typical rock song to me. It has some funky guitar in it. Basic lyrics about, pursuing a woman. And I don't know. It's probably my other least favorite on this album. This one and Ain't No Telling, I'm not a big fan of. This song sounds like maybe a leftover from Are You Experienced? It just sounds more like it should be on that album than this one. Yeah, I don't really like the song very much. Number 13, Bold as Love, is amazing. It describes this is quotes again, an Olympian battle of passions whose strategy is mapped out self-evidently in colors. Whatever that means. He uses colors as lyrical metaphors, which Hendrix does a lot. And it took over 20 takes to do this. And had 4 different endings that they had to figure out which one to use. And it took a long time, but it was definitely worth it. Mitch Mitchell used a flanging effect on his drums. Hendrix used a phasing effect on his guitar, and this is all during the ending, which is great. And it's supposed to symbolize the taking off of a spaceship out of orbit and into the stratosphere. And you can definitely see that when you listen to the song. You can definitely see that when you listen to a lot of Jimi Hendrix songs. But yeah, so that's Axis Bold as Love. I love this album. Like I said, there's a lot of good songs in Are You Experienced, but there's some that fall kind of flat for me, like Fire. I never liked that song. And, what's that? Electric Ladyland. Some great songs on that album, but some of the songs run a little too long, I think. And, like 1983, which is actually one of my favorite Hendrix songs, but it does go a little too long. Or the other version of Voodoo Child goes a little long. And I don't like Crosstown Traffic. But there are two songs I'm not wild about on this album, but the other ones make up for all of them. The other ones are some of the best songs he's ever done. And I love it. So this song is like a 9 out of 10 for me. It's, for me, the best Jimi Hendrix Experience album, the best album Jimi Hendrix ever did, in my opinion. And it was kind of a rushed album to fulfill a contract obligation, so it's interesting. But Axis Bold as Love, great album. Check it out. If you like Hendrix, you like guitar, I don't know why you wouldn't like Hendrix, but if you do, give it a listen. If you don't like Hendrix, listen to it anyway. Maybe it'll make you like Hendrix. Alright guys, I'll see you later. Have a good day.